Semitic magic and its origins and development. R. Campbell Thompson, from Part E of the introduction. A clean man was then to take hyssop, dip in this water, and sprinkle it on the tent, the vessels therein, and the persons who had become unclean by reason of the corpse. Sale points out the similarity of this story of the red heifer with an Arab parallel of a cow-calf left by a father to his son. His mother told him to sell the calf for 3 pieces of gold. An angel accosted him on the way to the market and offered 6 pieces, but the son declined to sell until his mother consented. He therefore returned home, obtained his mother's permission, and again met the angel, who this time offered him twice as much, provided that he would say nothing of it to his mother. The young man, however, did not agree, and his mother perceived that it was an angel that had spoken. This angel then declared that the Israelites would at some time buy that heifer at any price. Shortly afterwards, a murder was committed, and, in the absence of evidence as to the criminal, God commanded that the cow with such and such marks should be killed. This applied to the heifer in question. Now in Surah 2 of Al-Quran, God said any animal, and the people kept asking for, we want something more specific, more specific, more specific. The Israelites were obliged to buy her at as much gold as her hide would hold. Is that the weight of the head? A tradition similar to that contained the history of the word bursa. And then they sacrificed the heifer by divine instruction, struck the dead body with part of it. The corpse revived, accused the murderer by name, and then fell back dead. (24, 200, 129) Kohut. Ideas of breaking forth from a corpse, the use of blood to determine correct ancestry, and okay, by its absorption, the bones is mentioned elsewhere. There's JAOS. Is that a publication? Besides cleansing by water, fumigation with a censer was also employed by the Assyrians, just as it had been by modern Arabs, and the cuneiform text prescribed that a censer and a lighted match be added to the wizard's ceremony. There is also the method of safeguarding a sick man from the onset of fiends by placing him in the middle of an enchanted circle of floor or other crushed material as a kind of harem through which no spirit could break. The atonement ceremony complete, the warlock fumigates the patient, throwing the atonement, in this case a kid, into the street, and then surrounding the man with a magic circle of flour. In the story of Tobit, Azarias speaks thus of fish. Azariel would have probably been the original that came from if we're talking a Semitic name, or Azariah. Thus speaks of the fish which leapt out of the Tigris, touching the heart and the liver. If a devil or an evil spirit trouble any, we must make a smoke thereof before the man or the woman, and the party shall be no more vexed. And ultimately Tobias, on his wedding night, takes the ashes, the perfumes, and puts the heart and the liver of the fish thereon, and drives away the evil spirit which is afflicting Sarah, the bride, into Egypt, where the angel binds him. There is an echo of this legend in a Macedonian charm for one possessed by demons. The sufferer is to wear the glands from the mouth of a fish and be fumigated with them, and the demons will flee from him. Among the Malays, there is a custom of averting the evil consequences of what is called insulting the night. That is, if a guest should not have remained more than 2 nights, but should have suffered to go away before fulfilling the 3 nights demanded by custom. Okay, enclose a man with kusura, flower of lime, surrounded the shut gate, left and right. The man is loosed, and all evil is dissipated. Haupt ASKT 11-2. Oh, Devils 235. Oh, okay, there's, another variation. But anyways, the receipt runs: take asafoetida, sulfur, kunyit, tarus, an evil-smelling root, onions, skins, dried areca nut husk, lemongrass leaves, and an old mat or cloth. Burn them and leave ashes for about an hour. At sunset, on the floor of the passage in front of the door. The use of a censer to fumigate the man would appear to have its origin in fire purification, although there is the second possibility that the evil stench which drives the demon away. The live coil, borne by the seraph to touch Isaiah's mouth, to take away uncleanliness, Isaiah 6:6, is paralleled in the law of Numbers 31, 22, and 23, which directs that gold, silver, brass, iron, tin, lead, and anything that will stand fire is to be first passed through the flame and then cleansed with the water of separation, that it may be clean. To return the magic circle, which has already been mentioned, the Assyrian sorcerer is advised to make 7 little winged figures to set before the entity Nergal with the following spell: I have spread a dark dress on their upraised arms. I have bound their arms with colored cord, setting tamarisk every, and the heart of palm. I've completed the Usurtu magic circle. With a sprinkling of lime have I surrounded them. The flower of Isaba, the corn entity, the ban of the great entities, I've set around them. At the head of these 7 fearful wings I have set a figure of Nergal. I have placed Nuzku, the fire entity, at their head in the brazier. I have set 2 twin flames, complete in form, to whelm the evil devil. At the head of the sick man, right and left, I have set a figure of Lugal Gira, that hath no rival, in the foundations of the house, a figure of Sit Lamta'a, that hath no rival. I have set a figure of Narudu, the sister of the great entities, below the bed, that no evil may draw nigh. I have set Amel Dishpu and Latarag at the door. I have set Chuldupu at the door, to drive away all evil. Twin warriors of lime I have fastened within the door, twin warriors of bitumen on the threshold of the door. Right and left I have set 2 guardian figures of Ea and Marduk. I have set within the door, right and left. The incantation is the incantation of Marduk. The magician is the figure of Marduk, son of whose entity is whose female entity is, in whose body the sickness lieth. Perform for him the incantation when the cattle come home, when the cattle go out. O ye pure offspring of the deep, ye sons of Ea, eat of what is good, eat, drink of what is sweet, and nothing evil shall draw nigh against your watching. And the author saw an ibex hunter, the Semitic Peninsula, after they had no luck for several days, fire one of the thorn bushes of the desert and jump over it as it blazed, presumably to cut off the bad fortune, dodging his steps. There were several instances in Fraser's Golden Bough. So the superstitions mentioned in the Bible, not passing over the fire, that sort of thing. There's other incidences here, but I don't know with the circle under, are we talking a, are we talking a ch, are we talking a k sound? So it could be hulupu, but they have a dot, so I'm thinking it's not that. Joldupu is rather likely. Same with kuldupu. Anyways, in India, The magic circle is represented by a rampart of black pebbles, with which the magician surrounds the bed of the woman at childbirth to ward off the approach of demons. This magic circle, as a protection from the magician, was always used in medieval magic, and it's quite clear that we have a prototype of it in this Assyrian wizardry. The use of such an enclosure is given in Francis Barrett's Magus, where the directions may be found for calling spirits into it. The blessing for a protective circle is as follows: in the name of the holy, blessed, and glorious Trinity, proceed we to our work in these mysteries to accomplish that which we desire. We therefore, in the names aforesaid, consecrate this place of ground for our defense, so that no spirit whatsoever shall be able to break these boundaries, neither be able to cause injury nor detriment to any of us here assembled, but that they may be compelled to stand before this circle and answer truly our demands, for such as care to know the theories about the magic circle. In the latter day, Magic Mathers, in his introduction to the book of Sacred Magic of Abramelin, says that it's true in the convocation of the spirits as laid down by the author is not necessarily to form a magic circle for defense and protection. He suggests, however, that the license to depart should not be omitted, because the evil forces will be only too glad to revenge themselves on the operator for having disturbed them, should he incautiously quit the circle without having previously sent them away. And, what you invite, some of these things are, or you don't have to invite them literally. You can do something and it opens a door. But instead of the Trinity, Abrasax, Barbalou, Abrasax, Barbalo, and Abramento, Abramata, is it Omicron? But these don't have to be thought of as separate entities. Allahumma, Alhi, Alhim, and they don't have to be personified and that sort of thing. But we understand the Christians picked up much of the same processes and turned it into their mass and other ceremonies. Armed with these things, the word of power, the acquisition of some part of the enemy, the use of the magic circle and holy water, and the knowledge of the magical properties of substances, the ancient warlock was well fitted for his trade. He was then capable of defying hostile demons or summoning friendly spirits, of driving out diseases or casting spells, of making amulets to guard the credulous who came to him. Furthermore, he had a certain stock and trade of tricks which were a steady source of revenue. Lovesick youths and maidens always hoped for some result from his philtres or love charms. At the demand of jealousy, he was ever ready to put hatred between husband and wife, and for such as had not the pluck or skill even to use a dagger on a dark night, his little effigies pierced with pins, he would bring death to a rival. He was at once a physician and wonder worker for such as would pay him fee. To work amulets on the person has always appealed to the savage mind, and the word phylactery exactly expresses their use. From the blue beads plaited into horses' manes and tails are sewn into children's skullcaps, up to the elaborate skin purses containing long charms written out by the bizarre scribe, they remain as much a perpetual charm to the Semites as the cross is to the Christians. Now, these sort of practices can take a person out of Islam. You say that this thing has power, the amulet or the charm. You can complete a ritual with a symbolic element, but if you say that this item, the power is in this item, then that's shirk. Furthermore, it's shirking from monotheism. Furthermore, in the case of sickness, magic names endued with power can be written on parchment and steeped in water, which the patient must drink to be healed. At Al-Hajr, the gate Arabs demanded of me hijabs, or amulets, coverings, but it doesn't cover you from anything. Those things can actually open a person up to demonic influences of one sort or another, or presences that may not be nice for you. In experience. Such papers, written with the names of Allah, they would steep in water and think themselves happy when they had drunk it down. To drink the ink in which magical names have been written is so well known that a few examples need to be quoted. And of course, Allah is the singular and definitive word for God, and it's used by monotheistic people like Christians. It's used by monotheists. Among the Jews, it's used by, so we're going, like the example of this, I don't think that this gives me power, but, A late Hebrew grimoire prescribes a talisman to be washed off and drunk by one who has been bitten by a mad dog for love, that certain seals be written and put into a vessel of water from which the youth drinks, and he will love thee with a strong love. The hand is a favorable hijab, covering, amulet. Tawiz, is that their more general word for amulet? Worn by Arabs and Persians. It is so curiously similar to the thunderbolt of Adad worn in the necklet of the Assyrian kings, along with the emblems for the sun, moon, and Venus, that it may be a survival. When at Take-e-Bustan in Persia, I noticed a small boy wearing a silver circlet round his neck, on which there were strung 2 bands of this kind, and the figure of the new moon. The whole was strikingly similar to that of the figured on the Ninevite sculptures. Okay, Moorish influence, but there's this phrase, huc referendum si figuram attendunt quod Hispanicus curis ex gagete ad colum delegant manu darisum inserto intra digitos pirmoris pollis conformita hegam vocant. They should translate more of those, right? Jastrow, in his German edition of Religion, page 339, points out that the Assyrian amulet given to Meyerhermann Labartu III, 46 and 47, is to be compared to the Hebrew Chebrere, Berere, Revre, Ere, Re, etc. Abodazara 12b. The Assyrian runs Ke Reshte Lebeke, Reshte La Lebeke, La Lebe, Pish, Pishte, Shah, Anze Ishte, Shah, Anze Ish, Shu, Anze Ish, Anze Ish. And there's another incantation, S504, much the same. Kik tik ke, zu zu zu, ka 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 ka, n n n n, n n n n, brr brr, brr brr. Is there something missing here from each of those lines? Okay. Or maybe we're talking a very specific number. Okay. 4, 7. So 10 of the first. 11 of N. 14 of Ka. 15 of zoo, 15 of key, or maybe they're, there's just the gaps. I'm not sure if they mean something by the dots, but it is not infrequent to find that a natural desire to calculate the efficacy of amulets leads to tests such as artificers will subject their armor plate to. The Magharbi of the Semitic Peninsula make an amulet of a strip of parchment in the same length as the man for whose protection it is intended, and covered with writing. It is then fastened on an animal as a trial of its potency, and a bullet fired at it. If the animal escapes, the charm has proven its worth, and can be trusted against anything but a silver bullet, against which no amulet is known. I heard of similar test in Mosul, the writing being tied to a fowl and the fowl shot at. Judging by the average Arab marksmanship with a revolver, or a rifle for that matter, unless fired from a rest, the amulet should prove satisfactory in 9 cases out of 10. Well, it depends on who the witness, but before people trained in those things, and